You're a senior, yeah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Yes.
Hi team, how's everyone? Hi. We can hear you. Not very loudly, but we can hear you, Dan.
All right, reconvening in the public session. I'll start us off. I don't really have a lot to say, except I just wanted to recap what the board gathered yesterday morning for a orientation and retreat. It's not something we've done in a very long time, and I think we all agree it was an investment well worth it. We worked on communicating with each other, communicating with the community, and we had some very good discussions and case studies with Marty Brooks, our facilitator. So it was time well spent, and I'm grateful for everyone's time investment in that. We were with Dr. Kelly as well. So that's all I have to say. We have some minutes to approve from the last meeting of September 6th. Were there any changes to the minutes that haven't already been provided to Connie? Is Pete coming back? He's just what? Getting a computer? Oh, sorry. I'll wait for him. Pete, any changes to the minutes? No. Okay. If there's none, could we have a motion to approve? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Dr. Kelly?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I am so pleased to announce that our very own Bronxville High School has been awarded the prestigious designation of a 2023 National Blue Ribbon School by the U.S. Department of Education. The National Blue Ribbon Schools program recognizes schools based on overall academic performance or progress in closing achievement gaps. The National Blue Ribbon School program began in 1982. Our high school was actually first named in 1991 and now again in 2023. Our middle school was named in 2008, and our elementary school was awarded this honor just last year, 2022. As was referenced in our press release, in addition to providing traditional measures of achievement, our high school engages students in authentic learning experiences that go beyond content mastery and focus on competencies that prepare them for post-secondary pursuits. Our educators' work is guided by the Bronxville Promise, which focuses on student well-being and teaches students to lead, innovate, think critically, and engage the world. At our high school, teachers have designed instruction that replicates the work of historians, artists, musicians, engineers, researchers, writers, mathematicians, filmmakers, and scientists. And students publicly share their work and receive feedback, not only from their teachers, but also from experts within the field. And to quote Ann Meyer, our high school principal, "It is an honor to be awarded this national distinction. The students at Bronxville are outstanding." Our faculty are tremendous educators dedicated to providing a meaningful high school experience to our students. The parents and community are true partners with us in providing this unparalleled education. The Bronxville Promise is our vision, and each day as a community of learners, we seek to live up to it in new and innovative ways. End of quote. Congratulations to our students, faculty, administrators, and community. It's our collective good work that results in these honors. So congratulations.
Congratulations.
And then I just wanted to update the community in terms of where we are with refining the language of our Bronxville Promise. I thank those community members that have given us feedback on our suggestions. I do encourage more of you to see our website under the tab Bronxville Promise. It's also under the tab of Belonging in Bronxville. So you can take a look at and preview the changes that we are suggesting, and that you fill out the Google form to give us any feedback you have on any of those refinements. I am establishing a deadline of October 1st, and that is purposeful because then that will give our leadership team and the faculty time to synthesize that feedback. And the leadership and faculty will not see names associated with that feedback, but they will be able to synthesize the feedback so that I can come back to the board at our next public meeting on October 19th for hopefully the board's endorsement. And I just want to say I'm proud of the process because the community as a whole, our leadership team certainly, the board, as well as our faculty, kindergarten through 12th grade, have really been highly engaged in this important process. So thank you. Shay.
So it's the start of school, which is bittersweet, and we've had a lot of things going on in just like the first couple of weeks. One of the most, not important, but newest things we've been doing is the freshman transition program. We completely redid it last year, and even this year we've been updating it a lot, especially with Mr. Nelson. He's been doing a lot of work on it. And my personal experience, because I'm a freshman transition leader now, has been really good. I've actually gotten close with a couple of the freshmen in my group, which I think is really fun and really important. And we have a Boundless Adventure trip coming up on the 26th, which will be fun. And then we also have a lot of senior things. We did our senior drive around on the first day of school, and we have our Halloween parade coming up at the end of October. But we're also getting ready for college, and guidance has helped a lot with that. They've been walking us through the Common App in our English classes, and they've been monitoring our progress, and they've also been setting up meetings. We have one tomorrow at X Block that will just help us with writing our supplements and making sure that we're on the right track. And then we also have college admissions counselors coming in, I think daily, honestly, to
Feels that way.
yeah, to come and talk about their college, and it lets us ask questions, which is really important, and reaching out to colleges. All of our fall sports have also started, and we had a bad segment where most of our sports were canceled because of the weather, but I think we're working on getting most of those games rescheduled, and we have a lot of games coming, and playoffs start mid-October for most sports. And then we also have, for soccer, Bronco Fest on the 30th, which will be a lot of fun. And then our clubs again this year have started up. There's so many clubs, way too many to name. But we had our club fair on the 7th, where freshmen got to see all the different clubs and join a couple. And most of them joined too many, but then they'll narrow them down, which I think is really good. All of our, or not all, but most of our club meetings are on X Block days, which are really nice, and I really like X Block days. And I know SFL, we are planning on expanding a little bit more this year, because SFL is almost like our student body government, and we have a lot more committees this year, and we're hoping to get a lot more involved and have a lot more student activities. I also wanted to take this chance to congratulate some of my classmates, Franny Krause, Rohit, Nandapati, Quinn McCarthy, and Deev Tawala. They're all semi-finalists in the 2024 National Merit Scholarship Program, which I think is really cool for them. And then we also have 14 other acknowledged students as commended students, which is really exciting, and I'm just proud of my grade. And then something that Ms. Meyer actually talked about today is that we have these new minor or like half elective classes. And so essentially there are going to be small classes that take place also on X block days, and they're going to focus on something small and specific that students might have an interest in. For example, Mr. Klurfeld is doing a class in foreign relationships with China, which I think will be really interesting, and I'm planning on joining. So yeah, and other than that, I think people are just getting back into school and getting back on a schedule.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Shay.
Very well done.
So we're back to enrollment.
Yes.
Thank you.
So this is typically the time in the year where I share our preliminary enrollment. I say preliminary because there are still some moving parts. These are not final numbers. By October 1st, we typically would have our final enrollment numbers. But I did want to give the board an update as to where we are right now. So you have the grades on the left-hand side. The U's stand for ungraded. We do have some special education students that are in our special classes that are ungraded. Then that second middle column is where we are as of today. And then the third column is what was projected for those grade levels based on the demographic report from last fall. So we should be getting the new demographic report in a month or so, usually by November. So we are pretty consistent when you look at our current numbers versus projected. There are a few grade levels where it was pretty significant change. I'm looking at third grade in particular, where it was projected at 105 and we're at 116. We did have 14 new students register in the third grade. I also looked at the sixth grade. That looked not as consistent as some of the other grades, and we did have 11 new students register in sixth grade. We did lose about 14 students from 8th to 9th, which is a little more than usual, but typically we would have 8 to 10. And we did have 5 new registrants in 9th grade. So overall, off by 27, which is not that significant when you think that it's spread out across the district. Most importantly, we are appropriately staffed. On the next slide, you'll see it just broken down by the elementary school. I think our class sizes there are favorable. You do see third grade as our largest class sizes right now in the elementary school, and we have 6 sections in the fourth grade. So right now, if we were to plan for next year, I would say we would maintain that 6th section in fourth grade next year. In middle school, you see a breakdown by subject area, and then average class sizes for each of those subject areas. So I think overall in the middle school, our class sizes are looking favorable. And then in the high school, same kind of template in that we break it down per subject area. In addition, we do have a historical perspective looking at the percentages of the average class sizes as well as the breakdown. It's pretty consistent. And again, favorable class sizes, but not too favorable. I think we're in a sweet spot, I would say.
Performing arts always has really big.
Large,
Yeah, because you've got that chorus class with like 100 kids and just Pam Simpson, right?
That has been historic. Our band is rather big this year. And that is even with, we offer 2 levels of chorus and band, not chorus, just band and orchestra, 2 levels in the high school. So that has helped somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel, do we have an official cap on how many kids in each section in the elementary school?
There is not an official cap. Our practice, though, we have in board policy there are guidelines. And we like to stay under 23, which we don't get usually close to K2. And then 3-5, we don't certainly want to ever exceed 25. But if you look at that sixth section in fourth grade, that was as a result of that being a large class last year, and we added that extra section. Because before that, if we recall, we used to have 6 sections in every grade level, and our kindergarten enrollment lowered, so we started only 5 sections there. The next year it was 5 sections in both kindergarten and first, and so on and so on. But then we had to add that extra section in 3rd grade last year. So we use our best judgment when we feel that it's hitting what we think is good practice here. Sometimes it's tricky because we don't always know kindergarten enrollment. That's the trickiest. And you don't always know how many are moving in. Like, I'm not sure we would have anticipated 14 move-ins in one grade level.
Any of our competitive districts have caps?
I think the board policies probably range. They might have a specific cap versus guidelines. And I would venture to say some school districts don't have a policy on it at all.
The only other thing that popped out for me is the science classes in the high school. There's quite a few of them in the 25 to 29 class size. What would that be? Does that not really reflect like labs and other smaller group work?
No, it usually reflects courses. I'll schedule them with fewer sections because they're higher level courses that kids tend to drop.
Okay.
So I'll kind of think about year to year about how many kids drop out of certain classes. They sign up for them and they don't stay. And so I don't want to make those small sections to start. I tend to make them big.
Okay.
And then this report was run the first full week of school. If I ran it today, these numbers would be different.
Okay.
And so generally, I didn't run it today. I could have told you exactly where we're at. I was just talking to Erin about it actually. Some of those are small.
Okay.
And that's not uncommon for high school.
Correct. We use sort of historical data about the number of students who sign up for APs that drop in different courses.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's a good reminder that we've made a conscious decision that our AP enrollment is open. We don't have strict criteria for enrollment in our AP courses, so that will lead to some changes in that first couple of weeks of school.
Is there a particular grade that you see the most kids drop? Is it senior year or is it across the board?
Not typically. It's just certain courses that students, at 10th grade maybe, I would say more than anything, because they just don't know how difficult those courses are going to be. And then certain courses. There's also, we can talk a lot about it, there's sort of trends, rumor is out there, and then everyone signs up for a particular course, and then they realize, oh, that's a little bit harder than I thought. So we also have those kind of year-to-year changes.
Rachel, when we add a section in elementary school, is that typically a position that's filled by someone that's already working in the building? Or is that
No.
a new hire?
That is typically a new hire, which adds to the, how tricky it is, because we don't want to make that decision too late, because then the candidate pool might be diminished.
And we have classrooms, physical locations for?
Yes,
if you want to
because
add a section?
I look at the middle school and high school principals when you say that. So we've, blurred the line as to where elementary school begins and ends.
We will use those classrooms if they're empty. And then we have to give them back when they need them.
Right. So physical space is not a variable for us making the decision.
Is there a number, is there like a magic number where one teacher per X amount of kids starts to hit like a ceiling before the attention that each kid gets starts to decline?
Well, I think just historically speaking, those guideline numbers that I mentioned to you before, that's where our educators are comfortable. You know, K through 2 teachers will tell you that once they, you know, getting up above 23, 24, 25, you know, it's not as comfortable for them. They'll do it and they'll do it well, but that's, you know, those guidelines are based on what our teachers are used to and what we know they can do well.
Is there data out there that would suggest like 17 or 18, or as opposed to just going by what our teachers say?
Yeah, so I haven't looked at the research recently, but the last time I looked at the research, the only difference was like if it's below 12, you know, then there wasn't really any good research that was distinguishing among those numbers, you know, 18, 21.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any more questions on enrollment? Dr. Ketke?
Thank you, Susan. So first, I have a few things tonight to go through, but I did want to mention that I had the opportunity to speak at the elementary school council meeting last night about our literacy program. And I've written a very extensive 4 to 5 pages, frequently asked questions document about our literacy program specific to the elementary school. It was sent to kindergarten through 3rd grade families because it pertains mostly to those grades, but it's also posted under the curriculum and instruction tab of our website if anyone wants to read that. But in short, you know, we talked about the kind of 5 pillars of a strong literacy program, including phonemic awareness, which is the ability to identify and isolate sounds. So cat, k-at, 3 sounds. Phonics, the sounds that individual letters and letter combinations make. Fluency, reading accurately at a good pace and with proper expression. And vocabulary as well as comprehension. So I did have an opportunity to address the phonics piece, and one of the reasons I did so was the Teachers College Reading and Writing Project has been criticized for a lack of attention to phonics. And you know, Rachel assured me that since 1995 and all the way to present day, we have had a strong phonics component to our curriculum. You know, but just referring back to the 5 pillars of a strong literacy program, phonics alone would not be enough. And that's where our reading and writing units of study really come in. So as an example, in 2nd grade, students are taught comprehension strategies such as retelling a story, identifying a problem and a solution, discovering what a lesson a character learns, the importance of rereading when you don't understand, stopping to jot down and track the character and the problem, and fluency strategies like scooping up words into phrases and noting punctuation when reading aloud. So all of that are also necessary components, as well as the writing. You know, when we put students in 3rd grade take a New York State test in ELA, they have to write short answer and even respond to essay questions. So in the 3rd grade, through our units of study and writing, the students write a baby lit essay where they choose a character from a story, create a thesis statement that includes a characteristic to describe the character, find evidence in the text to support that thesis, learn the structure, and write an essay. So all of those make our literacy curriculum really well-rounded, in addition to what we do in terms of phonics components. So it was really my pleasure to share that last night. And again, if anyone's interested in more information, those FAQs are readily available on the website. Okay, moving on, Dr. Kelly has talked about us highlighting the promise and action at each of this year's board meetings. So we felt it was fitting to begin the year with how we end the year. And as many of you may be aware, our students in grades 5, 8, and seniors have the opportunity to reflect on their work through the lens of the dispositions of the Bronxville Promise and share with the faculty in June. And this is a highly celebratory event. It's always quite enjoyable to hear from the students and how the Bronxville Promise has been reflected in their education. So just in way of background, tonight you're going to watch a video, a short one, that features our current 6th grader, Jack Wooten. And in 5th grade, they do a unit on economics where the focus is on being an informed consumer. They actually study how bananas are imported and exported. They focus on sustainability, workers' rights, and positive economic growth. And after the students explore, bananas, they are allowed to research their own company along the same themes and present and discuss how they are a more informed consumer because of their research. So Jack is going to talk about his research on Microsoft. Moving along, we'll have Ellie Fahey, who is currently a 9th grade student. She is going to talk about a STEM program where they built a complex machine using simple machines and focused on renewable energy. And Ellie's group actually made a machine that throws a ball to a dog. And she's going to talk about the collaboration and critical thinking necessary, as well as the willingness to fail forward as part of innovation. And finally, you're going to hear from Aiden McBride, who is now a graduate, who did an internship with none other than the famous Dan Carlin, showing that embodying the dispositions requires learning outside of the classroom. Aiden will discuss what he learned about the budgeting process and the collaboration and critical thinking Dan engages in that is necessary to create and monitor the school's finances.
So I remember today, 36 ministers, therefore knows how they work. He knows about business equity, corporate social responsibility, and many other things. And so before this project, I had no idea what the heck he was doing. So this project actually helped me understand that part aspect of my personal life. It helped me understand what he does every single weekday of practically my whole entire life. So I think this was one of the longer projects of the year. It went over about a course of a month, I think. We participated in an authentic learning unit where we were responsible for extracting information from links and websites we were given and not just having it all handed to us right away. So we started learning about the economy and the banana industry, specifically Dole and Chiquita and other produce chains. And so we learned how they were sustainable, how they supported human and workers' rights, and what charitable causes they have. And we also learned about other things in how they support the economy in a good way, in a bad way, and other things. So after this part of the unit, we went on and chose a company to research. I chose Microsoft. And then we went on and took notes under the 3 categories that we learned about in the beginning of the unit. After we took notes on these things, we would then go on to put it on a poster, decorate it, make it presentable, and put on a slideshow and conclude to present to our class. I think this project goes under engage the world. To be an engaged citizen means to be informed about what's happening around you and have an opinion based on this information that you know about the world. And so we became an informed consumer on these different businesses and companies, and we learned how they are sustainable, how they support human and workers' rights, and what charitable causes they have. And we learned how they support the economy and the world in a good way. We also learned that there really is a power in the purchase, and that we can actually affect the world, even though we're so small, with this gigantic, out of billions. And we can still make a gigantic change in this world with just our everyday lives.
In 8th grade, we just did this, our Simple Machines project in science. We had the task to build a simple machine, or to build a machine using simple machines. So simple machines are levers, pulleys, inclined planes, etc. And it, honestly, to start, I had no clue how to do it. We were like, oh, we should make a cake pop machine, but how do I make a cake pop machine with a lever? And everything had to be started off from renewable energy. So I was so confused. But in the end, our group decided to make a thing where you press down and it catapults for a dog, so a dog can go around and get the ball. And also, when we decided to do that, I also had no idea how to make it. But as a team, we all put our critical thinking skills together, and we all innovated, and we all had opportunities to lead, connecting to the Bronxville Promise, and we all created a machine that worked half the time, but so created a machine that was able to throw a ball hard for a dog to go get it. And that was really like full circle moment for me. Okay, so how it all connects to the Bronxville Promise. So throughout middle school and elementary school and hopefully in high school, I'll be able to develop my critical thinking skills to its max in a way that I can use them throughout the rest of my life. And I am really excited to use my critical thinking skills that I've learned in Bronxville to help me become a better engaged citizen throughout my life. Thank you.
My internship. I decided to dedicate my life program to working with our school's business superintendent, Mr. Carlin, someone who I'm sure you all knew, but despite the fact that I've been here for 13 years, I didn't have a clue who the guy was. I thought that I know people. I can point out faces on a consistent basis. There aren't a lot of people who I don't typically know who I feel like I should. I walked in this guy's door, not a clue. However, after spending a semester with him, I'm realizing it's because this guy is so damn busy. He really does do so much to make this world go round. And working in his office, I did a few things. I had a few goals to cover. The things that I did for him is that I helped a lot with sorting files, I had a lot of attending his budget meetings and taking notes for him. More importantly, I offer a unique point of view as a 13-year student at Bronxville. The grant process as a whole and the budget process is a massive season for his life. It's really what he dedicates his season to within the school year. And although he also obviously has to manage the existing budgets, tie up loose ends when it comes to school renovations, and managing salaries, that is a massive constraint of his. But for the most part, it's managing the current budget and planning for the new one. It's a much more fluid process than you would imagine than just, this is how much money we're allocating. Because nothing ever goes right. Things happen, school floods, this school floods, multiple times a year. And all of that means that you can't really plan for it. And for me, that's a really cool thing to experience because it showed me that one of the most important things about Mr. Carlin's work is that he needs to think constantly, and one of the main elements of the Bronxville Promise, critical thinking. A lot of collaboration goes into his job. I see it with everyone. He's constantly talking, he's constantly meeting, which is really, really interesting because even if I don't choose to take his line of work, collaboration and communication, or even just budget management as a whole, is something that every person ends up using. So in reflection, overall, my life's experience has been pretty fantastic. I left with a lot of valuable knowledge, not only in budget management, but in collaboration. And like I mentioned before, even if I don't choose this path of work, I realize that I've been left with very valuable skills. And I feel like that has been a very, very distinguishable experience for me in high school. For the two of you, I absolutely recommend that you do this.
You're welcome, Dan, for your 15 minutes of fame. Aiden really enjoyed his time coming to the district office and visiting Dan. Yeah, it was fun. Okay, so lastly tonight I just want to talk a little bit about the Tri-States Consortium and Bronxville's long relationship with the Tri-States Consortium and our upcoming consultancy visit in November. So you might ask, what is the Tri-States Consortium? Well, you're probably all familiar with the executive director, Dr. Marty Brooks, who is an experienced superintendent. The current assistant director is Dr. Lauren Allen, the retired superintendent from Ardsley. And Tri-States is really a group of public school districts. There are 59 member districts across the states of Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey. Districts like Princeton, New Jersey, Darien, Connecticut, Scarsdale, New York. And they are a group of critical friends who come in approximately every 3 years and do a visit, and they give peer feedback focused on continuous improvement of the school system as well as systems thinking. So we are very excited to have a consultancy visit November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd this year. This is a 3-day process, and Tri-States will form an assembling visiting team. They are approximately 12 to 15 educational leaders representing the various member districts, and the districts will pose essential questions to them for them to provide feedback. Over the course of the 3 days, there are a series of presentations, classroom visits, interviews, focus groups, and the goal is to provide the district with the team's best thinking about the district's program or initiative while also pointing towards the next level of work. The consultancy results in a written report that describes the Tri-States team's observations and suggestions for next steps, which will be shared with the Board of Education. So our visits for the last several years have really focused, of course, around the Bronxville Promise and bringing that mission to fruition. But it's worth pointing out sort of the evolution of the promise, because you'll be able to see, hopefully, how our consultancy visits have focused on the development and moved the promise forward. So again, in 2014, this was the initial creation of the 4 dispositions of the promise. In 2017, we created the initial indicators and outcomes, which focused on curriculum development and assessment. 2019, we added the heart of the promise, and then in 2023, as you all know, we are engaging currently in some revision. So looking here, you can see that the visit in 2013, which was prior to my coming to the district was working really with an organization called EdLeader 21, which was considering how to develop something called the profile of a graduate and how to measure students' critical and creative thinking skills. And that was sort of the beginning of the seeds of the promise there. So in 2013, that was the focus of the visit. And of course, in 2016, we drafted the 4 dispositions of the promise. When the visiting team returned in 2016, we had the 4 dispositions of the promise, and the focus was really on to what extent has the district crafted a vision that is understood and supported by faculty, parents, and students, and what is the next level of work. So at that point, we had created the promise, but it was really about making sure it was a shared vision between the leadership team, the faculty, the students, and the broader community. Feedback from that visit included creating indicators and outcomes, which we did, and designing curriculum around it, as well as developing growth continuums so we could measure how students were growing in the dispositions. By the time the visiting team returned in 2019, the Bronxville Promise was well underway. The focus was on how do we know our students are growing in the dispositions, and how are we adapting our structures to support growth in the dispositions. The focus for that visit was on project-based learning, including curriculum design and assessment work such as Bronx River Research, National History Day, and Be the Change, to name a few. Using the portfolios, which you just heard presentations from this evening, as a reflective tool for both individual students as well as the faculty, changes in schedules, and the establishing of the heart of the promise. And I'm pleased to say that many of the visitors who were here in 2016 returned to us in 2019. They are very interested to see how this work is progressing, as many of them are also attempting to create this type of profile of a graduate, if you will. And we're hoping that many of them will return to us in November so they can see where we are at this point. Is there a next slide? That's it.
Mara, what are the roles of these representatives who are coming? I mean, are they administrators, teachers, principals?
So they are superintendents of various school districts. We have principals. We occasionally have teachers, but I would say it's heavy on superintendents and principals.
So there's a co-learning process. We can learn from them too, right? Even though they're coming to observe us, right?
I mean, typically they're here to give us feedback on our work, but certainly if they're doing something in a similar vein, they can talk about how that is going in their districts. And we also have the opportunity to go on visits as well, so we have an opportunity to see what other districts are up to through that process. And we each do probably one a year. So I just want to read a little from the 2019 visit report and talk to you about a few of the recommendations they made in 2019 and how we are planning to address some of those in 2023. So I'm going to read from the summative statement from the 2019 report. Bronxville could rest on its laurels, could continue to flatly move ahead with attention to nothing else but standardized test scores, college admissions records, and student grade point averages. Instead, Bronxville has intentionally chosen to be more than a district that excels in preparing students for college. It has chosen to be a leading district in designing research-based schooling that aligns with the needs and expectations of successful citizens, leaders, and contributors to our society. Bronxville has committed to establishing clear values, to pay close attention to current research and forecasts, to lean forward on behalf of its students, and to succeed in its design and implementation of transformative educational practices that match the needs, interests, and lives of Bronxville students as they enter the mid-21st century. And I think you could hear some of that echoed in our blue ribbon application. So to address a few of the recommendations made in 2019, one recommendation, using the Bronx River research as a model. And as many of you may know, Bronx River research began with about 3 students engaged in an independent study and now has 2 full classes, Bronx River Research Level 1, Bronx River Research Level 2, devoted to learning about the river and advocating. And so we are going to be highlighting authentic learning experiences, some of the cross-disciplinary work we're planning in high school, updated project-based learning units in our elementary school, launching of the mini electives, as Shay mentioned, and you will hear more about this at our upcoming strategic planning meetings as well. Another recommendation, as new language or dimensions are added to the framework of the promise, it is vital that educators have the time to discuss its meaning and application, to identify its application to their teaching, and to gain a comfortable understanding of it. Just as important is the opportunity for teachers to give and share feedback at each stage of development. So here we plan to highlight the proposed new language and how to best incorporate it into our community over time, reflect on our work, and revise. Recommendation. The heart of the promise is not an addendum or additional initiative. It is an essential wraparound or underpinning of the promise. And here we plan to highlight our renewed emphasis in our programming to include inclusion and belonging, our middle school advisory program, which has been revised, updated health curriculum, PBIS in middle school, and our revamped freshman transition, as Shay also mentioned. Recommendation. The system needs to give the work time to flourish. Pacing, gauging readiness for next steps, and evaluating the depth of understanding and implementation among the staff will ensure the pillars are solid enough to support the full and growing body of work. Many of the items that we're going to highlight at the consultancy visit in November are new, and we will look for feedback from the visitors on our planned implementation and reflect before the consortium returns in 2026. We are excited for the visit. It is a tremendous amount of work. We spent much time this summer preparing with our curriculum leaders and leadership teams. The quality of the presentations and the in-depth feedback provided by our peers through the consortium is significant for both commendation and next steps, and also to highlight the time it takes to pilot new programming, to fulfill new language, and to test those programs for revision. So we are very excited and going to spend the next month getting ready, and we look forward to sharing with you the results of that visit.
Thank you, Mara. Thank you for all your work in preparing.
You're welcome. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Mara. So the board has before them this evening the personnel agenda. And they had an opportunity to ask any specific questions in executive session. What is typical this meeting in September, sometimes in October, is for the board to approve overages. You know, we're a small school, especially in the high school, and we want to still be able to offer many electives. And so in doing that, we compensate our teachers to do so. So for example, a history teacher might have a full complement of history classes, and in addition to that, teach a psychology elective. So these overages allow us to offer rich courses and a range of courses to our students. Also, you have before you teacher aide resignation, a new teacher, termination of a probationary appointment, as well as a new substitute teacher. And I do want to just point out, you have a list of co-curricular advisors for this year. And I just want to give a shout out to the teachers who really take the time to spend time with students in these clubs as advisors, and I think it's a win-win. It's wonderful for the students who are in those clubs, and it's also wonderful for the teachers to be able to see the students in a different type of setting. So thank you to all the teachers who are willing to be advisors. And then we do have a new modified football coach. And so as a result, we have a revised fall coaching roster. So if you could please consider items A through Y this evening.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greetings from quarantine. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. The good news is that the financial reports that you have really don't tell you much, because we haven't really started the school year by the time the months of July and August are complete. So the good news is there were no summer surprises. We had a good opening, and I can tell you already, we're looking at a revenue surplus again, approaching about $500,000, at least at this point. And like last year, it's going to be in interest income and non-resident tuition income. I think those are going to combine probably for at least $5,000 worth of $500,000 worth of surplus. So that's good news. We're starting the year in a strong position. We're probably, by the time we have our next meeting, we'll probably have a draft audit, and if we get it in time, we'll schedule an audit committee meeting to review that, but we don't yet have a draft audit in. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but not much going on before we start paying teachers. I have two action items. Our consulting services with for stack reporting, which are special education data that we report to the state. We use a consulting service to help us do that and maximize our state aid on that. They've been with us for decades, and they do a really good job. They're actually utilized probably by most districts in the state. And then also the acceptance of non-resident students. The board required to accept the non-resident students. These are faculty students and also non-resident tuition students. And some faculty students also were paying tuition based on the ETA contract. So I'd like to seek approval for those two action items.
We take them one at a time.
We could take them.
Oh, we can. So we need a motion to authorize the execution of the contract with Management Advisory Group Special Services for an annual amount of about $7,696 per year. And to approve the list of tuition students and children and faculty in the district for the 23-24 school year. We have a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you very much. Moving on to facilities, our pumps continue to handle the water, working automatically and doing the job. I was up at DMV, maybe that's where I got COVID last Friday, registering our new van. But we hope to get that on the road and get our in-house driver processed for that. And I think he's got to take a physical and do a few other things. But we hope to get that van on the road hopefully next week. I've also received a draft energy report that I'm reviewing with the firm in NYSERDA tomorrow afternoon. Luckily, that's a Zoom meeting. Let's see. And then coming out of the facilities committee meeting, there's 2 action items. First is the bid award for 1 outdoor classroom to get going this fall. We advertised the bid on July 28th and opened it on August 22nd. It was reviewed by the facilities committee with the architects. The low bidder comes highly recommended, having just done a similar project for Meredith. Total donations for the project are $310. So we would have almost $140,000 left for the next outdoor classroom, which we estimate at this point is probably going to be in the $400,000 to $500,000 range. So it's a good start for the next one. And this will give us a chance to kind of dip our toe in and see if we like how the first one turns out. But we're either asking for more money or investing taxpayer money in the next one. The second action item is a very small emergency project to shore up some masonry in the B-wing attic, which also includes a Type 2 SEQRA resolution. That's the State Environmental Quality Review Act. A Type 2 resolution is a project as having no environmental impact. What we're basically doing is bringing in a contractor to shore up some bowing of brick masonry work up on the second floor of the B-wing. And we estimate that to be something in the $20,000 range. We don't have a number on it yet, but it's something we would normally handle in our annual maintenance budget. But since we want to do it as soon as possible, we're declaring an emergency on it. We don't think there's any danger of imminent collapse, but we want to do it as soon as possible.
Is the bid list for the classroom, that's the same one we saw at the last board meeting a couple weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think the facilities committee came to a very good conclusion to try this one out and see what kind of use it gets before investing more money. So we take these.
So we have facility action items A, B, and C.
Together? Great. So we need a motion to award the contract for the outdoor classroom, the amount of $173,850 with contingency of 10 and $29,500 to add alternatives. We need a motion to accept the emergency resolution for the masonry work and to accept the attached SEQRA resolution.
Motion.
Sarah?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Dan, are you
Thank you.
doing the baseball trip also?
Yes, that's another action item. Baseball trip wants to go to I guess Disney again, they have their ducks in a row, so let's get them approved so they can lock in their pricing.
Yeah. So we've had a chance to review this, all of us, in advance of the meeting. Did anybody have any questions for Dan on the trip? All right then, if we have a motion to approve the baseball trip. Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, feel better. So since our last board meeting, we have had, strategy and curriculum committee meeting. Do you have any?
Yeah, no, I mean, at the meeting, and Eddie and I will pretend Christine's not here, but I would say probably the most impressive highlight from that discussion was around the electives. And I thought that the introduction of the electives that they're doing in the high school, really a great opportunity for these students and almost partnership with the teachers. Some of the teachers were explaining some of their initiatives. I was thinking of Ms. Allen talking about her art, contemporary issues in the art world. I'm trying to remember who talked about even the engineering today versus Denise Flood about she has a course that's going to be engineering today, comparing that to ancient Greece and the ancient building and building a through line, and it's pretty extraordinary stuff. But it was just there was a MATLAB one which seemed a little. It's like a super nerdy one, but it sounds interesting to me. I always love that fun stuff. But
We're working
anyway,
on the name.
yeah, it's fantastic. I don't mean it in a denigrating way. I mean it just sounds like it has the range. The idea is that the electives demonstrate the range of interest, not just from what I think the students might be interested in, but from the passions that the teachers have, all the way from a very quantitative a course offering to an offering about art, and everything in between. So I just thought it was impressive. It was great to hear the teachers speak about it. I did run into Miss Allen on back to school night, and I told her, I wanted to take that course with her. And her question to me was, she said, well, do you think enough students will be interested? So I think this will be, this is a pilot program, and certainly we're going to see, the passions of the teachers and whether reflected in the students, and I expect Anne and your team will determine what to continue and what maybe to modify. But thank you, it was great.
And just to add to that, these courses are 10 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So they are mini.
Yeah.
And they run during X block, so they don't compete with other APs and other courses that students feel, compelled to be part of. So we're hoping that, it'll bring them out because it's short, but interesting, and gives teachers a chance to really teach from their passions, which is always the best.
Sure.
That's great. So these are 4-credit electives.
They're 4 credit, it's not a lot of credit.
Yeah.
But that's not why kids are taking
Right.
them, and they're gonna be pass-fail.
Pass-fail, yeah.
So they will go on the transcript, but we know that kids have a lot of work to do. This is not about adding to the workload, it's just maybe sparking an interest, maybe something they would pursue in college or not.
But Anne, I think that was a brilliant idea. I don't know who thought of it, to make it pass-fail. Because it takes that pressure off of the experience. I mean, I don't know, maybe Shay can talk about it better than me, but I mean, you have a lot of pressure to do exceptionally well in your senior year, particularly, or junior year, and it gives you an opportunity to maybe build a relationship with teachers, connect to their passions, and maybe explore things you might look postgraduate.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm excited to do a class, so.
That's great. Thank you for the update. Coming up, we have a long-term planning workshop on Monday, October 2nd at 6 p.m. That'll be right here in the auditorium lobby. Our next regular meeting is on Thursday, October 19th. It's going to start a little later than we usually start. The public session will start at 8 p.m. And then there's another long-term planning workshop on Monday, October 30th. Those are a great way to come, the planning workshops, and hear an overview of the budget usually Dan provides, and a little bit of history and perspective on just kind of how longer-term curriculum gets developed. We are now at the point of public comment. I just want a few reminders. If you have a comment to make, please identify yourself or Connie to record. Sometimes the public comment can become kind of a Q&A. It's really intended just to be for commenting, for sharing something you wish for the board to hear. Where there's a quick fact or a question we can easily answer. As you know, we usually try and do that, but it's a very smart community, and the questions are usually not quite so simple. So we ask that we all just keep that in mind. Is there anyone who has a comment?
I have a facility update.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Should I sit over there for you?
But you haven't met since the last meeting.
We did. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't have that.
We did.
Sorry.
We did. It's two items, both I think very exciting items. One is the pump enclosure to try and get as many years possible out of our pump system. So we've kind of narrowed down the enclosure, trying to keep it with the aesthetics of the building and with what the village would want. So maybe we can get a rendering of some sort up or distributed so people can take a look at some point. And the other one is something that we started back in the 1990s, which is trying to enforce the use of our fields. They have lifespans, and we have a lot of men using them for soccer pickup games on the weekends and at night. And it is taking away the usage of the fields for our students and our kids. And so we decided that this would be a good opportunity to try and enforce that policy a little bit better through permits and fees and requiring insurance, which we already have on the books. We're just not enforcing it. Some new signage that'll go up, and we think it's prudent to do for the taxpayers who end up having to foot the bill the next time the fields need to be replaced. So we're hoping that the community will appreciate that, and we think it's a good use of our time. That's it.
That's great. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
All right, back to the comments.
I have a question.
Yes. And could you please state your name?
Yeah, Aaron Schaefer, student parent. This goes to the class sizes. With the open enrollment in the AP courses, and I'm also thinking of the middle school math program. And I know that's been very successful with more students taking those and being successful in those courses. But a concern has been raised of those classes becoming too large, or larger than they had been based on open enrollment. So my question, is that true? Is that the case? And a comment was made, well, if these math classes in middle school, for example, get too big, we'll get another teacher so that they do remain the same ratio. So I couldn't see all the data, my eyes were not good enough. So are those class sizes getting bigger? Are we doing anything to keep them the same size with the open enrollment?
Okay. So the total N in the grade level doesn't change. Let's talk about middle school math. The total N in the grade level doesn't change, so the number of algebra sections may increase, but then the number of Math 8 sections decrease. And if we need to add a section, we will. So one of the overages, for example, in the high school tonight was for Miss Allen, one of our art teachers, because we are now offering a second section of AP Art History. because the number of students interested demanded that. So instead of, we would never cut it off and say we only have one section. So that's an example of how we handle that.
Any other comments? All right, thanks, everyone. Have a good night. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?